about my dancing.
Yes. You just do this every time, so it just makes me laugh. I think we should give James some new dance moves.
Yep.
Welcome to 15 Minutes or Less. I'm Mabs, and with me as always is the Sass Posse. Yeah? Is that what we're calling everybody now?
Yeah, why not?
Bullying me? That's fine, okay. So I'm Mabs. With me as always is...
Amy!
Pastel.
Amy number 1.
Oh my gosh, shut up.
I'm Sarah.
And this week we're talking about time travel.
Things just got really weird.
Right, okay, I'm going to start the clock. And here we go. So 15 minutes, we're not experts and we're going to talk about time travel.
No, we
now.
are experts. Yep. We've come from...
You're a time traveller.
Yeah, I've come all the way from 1900. Future.
Oh.
Come from the future to tell you this. I can hear that.
Yeah. Absolute rubbish. So, does anyone believe in time travel? Do you believe it is possible as a thing that could happen? There's a lot of scientific debate about it, but I just want to know your personal thoughts and feelings on time travel.
No, absolutely not.
No?
Really? Oh, 100%.
Yeah, 100%.
Interesting. Why so sure?
Well, because I'm here, I can't be here in the future, and nothing can send me there. That's just stupid.
So,
sorry.
Did I mention at the start of this episode we're not experts? I just reiterate that point in case you thought this
Apart
was a
from Amy
factual.
White, obviously clearly an expert on
I
that.
just don't. I think science can make a lot of things possible, but time travel definitely not. You are in the time. You cannot move time.
Unless you know the scientific explanation for time travel.
Yeah, but there isn't a thing. There isn't.
There is.
There isn't.
I actually kind of agree with Amy. I think in terms of theory, when you think of how times work, it is possible.
Yeah.
But in order it to work, you have to go in the past or future and don't do anything. And that's the part that's impossible. You would go and make some changes and would mess everything up.
Yeah, I think that bit's a bit crazy.
So I think physically it's impossible, but theory, yes.
Yeah, because I mean, like any time travel into the past, even if you didn't do anything, simply by being there, unless you literally didn't touch anything.
But how are you going to get there?
Anything.
I don't understand.
Well, we're just skipping over that bit for now. We'll get to that.
Let's say we have a technology.
Yeah, let's think about this.
I think we need a lot of
Technology to do that.
Well, the obviously the most famously touted mechanism for time travel is a time machine. Is how people will normally describe it. There'd be some kind of machine.
Yeah, but can they make the machine go in the future?
Yeah.
How?
Well, I mean, yeah. If you know, we're just sort of saying, yeah.
Just get a little bit more creative.
So are they saying your imagination is time travel?
No.
That becomes a very abstract.
But I think it is a
view
bit
of it.
abstract, isn't it? It's not real. It's
Nobody,
Knows
as
for
far
sure.
as we're aware, has done it.
there you go.
No, we're not. Although
Case closed.
what's quite an interesting thing is there have actually been events in the last 30 or 40 years on this planet, very highly publicized time travel events where they have tried to entice future humans to come back in time. So people that might have invented time travel and so an opportunity to come back and demonstrate to the people of the past their time travel stuff.
And how'd they get on with that, James?
Not well. No.
Funny that.
I think someone from future sent us.
Thanks, sorry everyone.
That's okay. That's good.
If I could go back in time.
So yeah, there have actually been time travel events on Earth where they've tried to entice future humans to come back in time to basically come and present the technology that they've created that has allowed them to travel through time. There's been quite a few of these throughout the last sort of 30 or 40 years.
And how successful has that been, James?
Well, not very successful. Nobody's shown up.
There you go, case closed.
No,
Give it up, people.
No, but perhaps we could have some. Maybe this could be an open thing. So maybe you could be watching this at some point in the future and be like, do you know what? I'm gonna do something. I'm going to travel to that podcast and I'm going to prove to them that time travel's real. Yeah, or like mess with something. Give us a sign. Anyway, but I didn't realise that the idea of an actual time machine as the mechanism for time travel was popularised by H.G. Wells by his famous book, The Time Machine, which I kind of, when I read it, was like, yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, that's like in the late 1800s. But has anyone read that? I think they've actually made it into a movie. If anyone's watched that.
No,
I
I
did
haven't
watch
read it,
some
but
of
I
that.
think you must have done. I'm a big fan of time travel.
Oh yeah, me. I read it, watched the movie, got the T-shirt.
But it is though, isn't it? It's one of those things, I suppose, in terms of it's a sort of scientific supernatural power in many ways, isn't it? Which is what makes it quite fascinating. The idea that if you could travel through time into the past or into the future, what would you do? What would you want to know? What would you want to see? What would you?
I hate that when people say, "Oh, I would just go back and kill Hitler."
Yeah, that seems so lazy.
Like they just let you go, and like there are so many bad people right now. Can you just show up and kill them? No.
Yeah.
That's not how it works.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I got really.
No, I think it's a good point because as well.
So where would you go?
Yeah, I mean, so if you weren't going to go back and say kill Hitler, is anyone like got anything? Like, would you like to go back and see the dinosaurs? Would you like to go back and
I think I'd be
see?
too scared.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable assumption. I
We
don't
go
think
back
I'd.
or forward, James, or is
Yeah,
it just back?
yeah. I'm just saying if you could.
Time travel, Amy.
Let's say it works. Yeah.
Well, I thought we were going into the past. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Right. Got
The
it.
future is more interesting.
The future's more interesting.
I think so. I don't know. I cannot, cause I'm a woman,
Mm.
and I don't think there are certain period of time that I want to go back to.
Mm.
But in future, it would be interesting to see where the humanity is going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I
Could be
basically,
scary.
in preparation for this podcast, forced Amy Blaker to watch the original Back to the Future movie because she'd never seen it.
Did you?
Yeah, and that's the thing that, and if you haven't seen it, I don't listen to us anymore. Go, be gone.
Who are you?
Who are you? But that's the thing that.
Have you seen it then?
Yeah, loads.
Right. Okay. Hands up. Who's seen Back to the Future?
Oh, me now.
That's
Listen, what?
Sarah hasn't seen anything like me. Sarah hasn't seen anything on Disney either.
Well, Sarah is
Yes.
Gen Z. She's young. Back to the Future
So
is
am I.
80s,
I'm young.
80s.
1985. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the sequels were 89 and 1990. So you're somewhat forgiven.
Thank you.
That's it. But I.
Well,
There
yeah.
have been better films since, but it is a good film.
Yeah, it is. I think the point I was raising about that was that that's what the character in that film, the scientist Dr. Brown, wants to do, isn't it? He wants to go to the future and see the progress of humankind and the advances we make and what happens. But then, of course, chaos happens and then they ended up going somewhere else. If you've not seen it, I don't want to spoil it for you, Sarah. So
Thank you.
um,
One day I'll watch it.
never going to watch it. But like, I was having a look at this, and it's like it is a subject that has been followed a lot. You know, Doctor Who, a lot of time travel in Doctor Who, Star Trek.
It's about time travel.
Yeah, I mean it's all well,
Time
it's, all,
traveller.
it's a lot of sci-fi things. Interstellar, of course, a few years ago, Christopher Nolan film. That was quite an interesting
Yeah.
take on time travel because that's based on quantum mechanics and wormholes and stuff, isn't it? I think so. Has anybody watched that one?
Nope.
No, okay, so that's an interesting take on time travel. That's the idea that you can effectively be somewhere else in the universe and it alters time relative to you, which is quite
They go
good.
into the black hole in that one.
Yeah, that's right. And that's one of the theories of perhaps how you could travel through time, through a black hole, or there might be certain places in the universe or in space where time travel is possible, but we aren't actually located in one.
Or like time could be different because here in our like universe it's a line, but it could be circle in other universe. You could be in the past and future and present at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. But also, do you not think that time is relative, right?
Yes.
You know, because like think about how significant and how slow. Like let's take going back to our previous episode, we talked about school, and school is often a long summer holiday, about 6 weeks off. And when you're a kid, that feels like the longest time. But then when you get older, no, It doesn't.
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe there's that aspect of it as well, like the relativity.
I think it'd be a long time if I was off work. 6
Yeah.
weeks.
So you experience time differently based on
Being a time traveller.
What about being stuck in a time loop, like the movie Groundhog Day, where you relive the same day over and over and over?
I haven't seen it, have you?
Yeah, I've actually seen that.
No!
Yeah.
Wow.
Very good. Thank you, Sarah. Very good. Very good.
No.
Yeah. So these are. But I mean, I know these are things that are interesting for films and stories and stuff. But I mean, if that really happened to you, something like that, how do you think you'd handle it?
I think if I was in London, I'll be fine because there's so many things to do. But if I'm in a very small city that you cannot, in it like 24 hours, you don't have time to get out of that city. No, I think that's would be worse torture.
Yeah, I think you're right. Because I mean, that's the thing in that film. He relives the same day for. I think I read something like several.
But then he gets
thousand.
better, doesn't he, at it?
Yeah.
As the time goes on. So maybe you'd learn a few things about what you can do and how you can do it better. So.
Well, yeah, that's right. In many ways, he somewhat becomes like a godlike creature because he knows everything about everyone and learns everything.
Yeah.
And then in the end, eventually, somehow, that breaks the time travel loop. It's kind of a sort of a romantic film, so it's not quite strictly about time travel. But nobody really mentioned where they'd like to go back to, because we were sort of concerned about messing up history. Obviously, Paris, you said you'd like to see the progress of humankind. Did you get anything over this side of the table? Where would you like to go back or forward to?
I wouldn't want to go back, I don't think.
No, you can read about the past, but you don't know what's going to
Be in the
happen.
future, yeah.
But then that's a bit dodgy. You wouldn't want to like zoom forward and be like, this is even worse than it is now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to go anywhere.
I'd go forward to do things that benefit me. So say, for example, if I wanted to know like what house I was going to live in, so then I'd think about, okay, so when in that time in the future would have been the better time to buy it, like for that price to have been better.
But
Or
like you cannot change anything.
Yeah.
no, but you can't. But it will prepare me for when I do decide to
But
buy
you
the
would
house I'm
do
going to
that
buy.
anyway because you're in the future have that.
Oh no,
house.
you go there but come back, right? Isn't it just visiting?
Yeah.
it?
But if
Yeah.
let's say you have a house in future,
Yeah.
you would do stuff in order to buy that house anyway.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't come back and change anything because those actions may lead to you.
You're
lose that
saying you're
house.
going there to
Yeah.
change your future, basically.
Yeah, I don't know. And I want to know, like, am I going to have kids? Am I not going to have kids? I'm getting old. So this is a question that comes in my
Yeah.
head all the time. Like, I'm not
That would
Not
be
a-
interesting.
yeah.
To know. Yeah.
I'm not a baby person,
What's
so
going to happen?
and I'm leaving it quite
So
late.
yeah, psychic.
So, no. This is the thing, you just got to let life happen as it is.
I also would like to see my parents when they were young, when they were a child. That's interesting to see.
Yeah, that would
Like
be weird.
what they would like.
Or even like, obviously, excluding all the possibilities that you can completely mess up time. I'd be interested to see myself when I was young, because you have in your head a perception and a memory of what things were like
Yeah.
and how they were and how you saw them and how you behaved. But then if you were able to see it removed subjectively going back
That's really
and see
cool, yeah.
yourself, you'd be like, wow, that's
I was dumb.
yeah. You know, or something that seemed so significant at the time to you that really had a huge impact and influenced on who you are as a person, or something like that. And then you look at, like, it could be like something like, I don't know, like a breakup or achieving something academically, or whatever it is. But then those things that feel so significant and you remember them as like markers in your mind, but then you go back and look at it and you're like, oh.
Have you guys ever wrote letter to yourself or record video for yourself for future?
No.
I've done that.
Yeah.
And it's very depressing because when I watched it a few years ago, I didn't achieve anything. Like, I had all these plans, you're going to do this, tell me about this. It started with, I hope you're alive.
Oh my
really awkward if you're dead by now.
At least you didn't start with the video. It was like, hi, this is Paris Stu, and if you're watching this, I'm probably already dead.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
God.
I'm going to do something for my future in 10 years. That would be interesting.
So what, are you going to record something
But
now?
my expectations are so low now. But just,
Well, we could do that. We have about a minute left of the podcast. So we could quickly go around the table and we could do a very short prediction of, okay, so in the future, this will live on because the internet's going to live forever, clearly. What do we think is going to happen? Very quick prediction. What do we think is going to happen in the future? Technology-wise, politically-wise, anything-wise? Any big, grand things? You know, pretend you're all futurists for a moment and you can... You know, is it going to be good? Is it going to be
are we
bad?
predicting? The
Yeah, sure. Just something you think that might happen in the future.
I'm going to be a millionaire.
It's a theme here, Amy.
Putting the positivity
There's a lot
out there.
of personal gain around this table.
It's just
I
about
think.
me.
Yeah,
really.
yeah. I mean, that's not what time travel's for. If you watch Back to the Future, you'd know that. So,
But it is today.
yeah. How about like commercial space travel? Like you get to go, like you will get to go on those holidays finally into space. Do you think that will happen?
Yeah, it's already happening.
There's a reasonable assumption that would happen again. How about living under the ocean?
I
That's
think
something
that's
we talked
got
about
to
before.
happen maybe one day. They've got post boxes in Japan under the water, so scuba divers can send letters to each other. So why not live under there too?
Right, so that's 15 minutes. There's been some very bold claims here at the end of the podcast. Now, don't forget you can send us your comments and tell us what you think is going to happen in the future. Maybe you'll be like, your podcast series will be over. That's one thing I can guarantee.
Amy's going to be millionaire. I'm trying to be your friends because you're going to be a millionaire. I want to stay in your life.
Excellent. Well, that's it. So that's been time travel. So if you want to go back in time and watch it again, it's great because if you're on YouTube, you can just go back to the start and rewatch this podcast. Thanks very much for listening, watching, and we'll be back again next week where we'll be talking about the undead for the letter U. Thanks very much. We'll see you later. Bye.